intimately. Virtually everything I really tell you is a story. I was going into the more academic, in a sense, list making bullet points with you earlier, just to say that I do have some systems that I've self-invented that helps me begin things, that's all. And I do look at concepts, particularly concepts of opposites and addition and subtraction, very simple concepts, and concepts of innovation when I try to think of what path I'm going down, and I turn it into a map. But storytelling and story maps are, I think, the fastest growing part of this company I told you about, Esri, ESRI, which you should research, and Jack Dangermond. And I told you is the largest maker of software for mapping and cartography in the world. And when they're back to their live meeting, I hope in a year, they've canceled it for 2 years and had it online. When they're back to their week-long meeting in San Diego, they have 21,000 people from 152 countries. And the fastest growing part of it is what they call story maps, is telling a story with a map, which was started by somebody from National Geographic who now works for him and is head of that. And that's the fastest growing part of people's buying software for doing that and implementing that and making it easier and as a learning system in schools. So the story map, because everything takes place someplace, is a way of telling a story. And a story map also has the possibility of time. And that's one of the 5 ways of organizing information is by time. You know, by what Latch was, I told you, was location, that's a map, or a tree, or someplace on your body, location, alphabet, time. When you tell a story, time is involved. When you tell a joke, time is involved. How a company does over a series of years, whether it grows or changes, the change in the stock market is by minutes or days or years. But that diagram that you draw is also a map of that information over time, which is what a story map often is. Yes, I agree with you. That was my long-winded way of saying that a story is essential. And most things, for instance, let me tell you a story. You'll be surprised by this story because it has a purpose in mind. I got off the plane at Heathrow and I took the tube into London, which you can do now, and went up the stairway and started crossing the street, looked the wrong way, and I almost got hit by a London bus, which came to a screeching stop. And in its back, it got rear-ended by a small Volkswagen Beetle. The bus is about the size of a blue whale. The blue whale's heart is about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. The Volkswagen Beetle, if it hit a blue whale hard enough and in the right place, could be swallowed up by the 3.5-foot anus that the blue whale has. The Volkswagen was built in 1935, was Hitler's people's car, although there were similar cars years before in Poland and other places that looked very similar to the Beetle. And the first Toyota was built in 1935 in Japan, the 2 countries that came together in the Second World War, but were not together in the First World War. Both built their people's vehicle in 1935. 1935 is also the year that Carlos Gardel died. Carlos Gardel, one of the most famous people in Argentina, died in a strange on-the-ground accident in an airplane on a landing strip in 1935, small planes, playing chicken with another plane in Chile, and they crashed into each other and he died. Now he invented and composed and et cetera, everything that has to do with the tango music, the tango dance, the rules of tango. Tango is a metaphor in many ways, or an example of opposites. It's love and hate. It's intimate and non-intimate. It's full of rules and full of just variations that you do yourself, improvisations. You look at each other sometimes, you look absolutely away from each other. It's an amazing metaphor for invention. A joke is the opposite of expectation. That's what the punchline of a joke is. So many things are the opposite of what you think. The DNA thing turned out in many ways, for Francis Crick and Watson, to be the opposite of all the studies that we're doing to try to find DNA or something like that, which are always with straight line. And it was by going the opposite of getting it in an absolute not straight line, and in this strange intertwined braid or curl that it is, that they found an answer. And they found it purposely by looking at something that was the opposite and different. Many discoveries are found that way. So we go back to the First World War, where Japan was part of the Allies. But when the treaty was signed in the Versailles train car, because they were Orientals, they had a seat by themselves because of the prejudice of the European countries, and they never forgot that. Now that's a complicated story. If I ask you tomorrow to tell me that story, you'll remember it. I made it complex. I went from science and biology to time, to a place, to London, to countries, to war, to a dance, to an anus of the largest animal on earth. And it all sticks together, and that's connections. And it's a story. And none of it is true. I mean, none of it is true that it happened, of course. I mean, the facts are true, but I didn't cause an accident in London, and I didn't look the wrong way doing that. But you're with me right through as I start telling that story. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking back to you with some improvisation of a story that answers your question.